What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Cat Tavern. I'm your host, Kieran. As was mentioned in our previous episode, Ethan is not here this week. He's on a little vacation in South Carolina. So I had to bring out the big guns. Our guest today, if he was a weapon, I would probably relate him to the VMP from BO3. Any COD fans out there? High rate of fire, he's doing all kinds of things, making a lot of impact on anything he hits, right? So that's what we're going to go with. He currently lives in New York, where he's lived most of his life, working for a startup that prints buildings. Stick around.
We do that.
Welcome,
it is true.
My good buddy, Jordan. He was my freshman year roommate. And we've been friends ever since. How we doing today?
Doing pretty well. I appreciate you having me on for this. Yes. Haven't really done podcast stuff before, so it's fun to, give this a shot.
A little different, I know. We're making big numbers over here, man. It's going to be all over. Ignore the sub count.
But it'll get there eventually. You got to work for it, you got to get there. So It takes time.
Exactly. So
I didn't realize you were gonna have a whole introduction for me.
Yeah, we gotta warm the people up, get them fired up, build the suspense, because you're a big name in New York, Jordan. I don't know if you realize this.
I don't know. Getting there. I'm gonna keep working on it.
So we were actually hanging out a couple weeks ago. I took the trip to New York to see UFC, and Jordan just happened to be there and figured, well,
as I am,
he can show me around. So took the flight to Jersey on Friday, picked me up. We had a pretty short weekend, but we made a lot of it. Saw a little bit of everything. I will say,
got around a good amount.
New York's about the dump that I pictured it. No, I'm just kidding.
Go down there.
No, I'm just joking.
I mean, it doesn't help that you started me off by having me drive all the way to the actual dump that is New Jersey and then come back to New York where things are at least a little bit better. So
we're not here to make enemies. I won't promote my opinion on New Jersey, but it was related, close relative to the trash can. That was crazy. We saw a bit of action. I mean, as far as action goes, there was a lot of people out for 1:30 in the morning. I will say, it was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even beyond.
There always
UFC, traffic.
Trying to get out of the UFC stadium was such a headache, especially with the cops trying to block every single route. That was such a headache trying to drive out from there.
Yeah, it's just different, You're used to it, I'm sure, but for me, being from the Midwest, a lot of our listeners are from Indiana as well. It's kind of difficult to describe if you haven't been to a big city, because the movies are one thing to see it in, but to be in it is kind of different. It's a dog eat dog world, truly.
Especially on the driving side, you gotta really pay attention when you're driving and be willing to piss some people off, because they will piss you off instead if you don't take your space.
That is true. Jordan kind of guns it, I won't get him in trouble.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. But, we'll talk a little bit about our weekend. We saw, just some, notes from where I saw. I got to go to Central Park for the first time. Absolutely massive. How long did we spend walking there? Probably 45 minutes.
At least an hour.
Or so.
Yeah, and we didn't even we only got through half of it. I didn't show you most of Central Park. I showed you the bottom half to the middle area, and then we kind of split off to the museum.
Yeah, it was, I didn't really know what Central Park was going to be in my head, But what we saw, it was kind of nuts. It literally is. It did feel like a zoo type of environment, like how you would walk through a zoo. That's the best way I can describe it, but it's literally just never ends. It's crazy. Such a large park.
Yeah. I mean, well, it does help when you at least have a little bit of greenery when everything else is gray and concrete. So,
Can I offer my most honest, probably unpopular opinion?
sure, you can hit me with it.
I know how large New York itself is. I know how large Central Park is in comparison to the rest of the city. My opinion is I think it's just there to make people feel better about themselves. I feel like the actual park itself has little to no impact on bringing a said green environment to New York.
Fair enough. I mean, it's like, what's the best way to describe this? It's cool. I like it personally. It's a good thing to show off as oh, you're going to New York City for the first time, go to Central Park. But we also kind of went on, and the weather wasn't the best, so it definitely seemed a lot more empty than it is. Because I will tell you, on a nicer day like it was earlier this week, the weather is way better. So I definitely think that contributes a little bit to your opinion towards that, but that's okay.
It was a bit rainy. I don't know, it's just like everything else outside of that. It's all concrete and buildings. I don't know. I think that was just throwing me off, And then there's this big vast green park. Don't get me wrong, it was beautiful. I really liked walking around it. It was awesome to see everything, but that is one of the things I was thinking about after my trip. I was like, well, in the grand scheme of things, what is it really doing in terms of helping the environment or combating the city? I don't know if there's enough there to keep up with that, but it is very cool nonetheless.
I mean, it obviously different experience. You see a lot more green every day. The average New Yorker does.
Yeah, that is true. Very contrasting points of view in terms of what we see every day.
Is my camera lagging on your end too, by the way? I see it on the stream, but I don't know if that comes through on OBS. It's kind of laggy. I can move if it is.
I can try to take care of that real quick. Alright, sorry about that. Some technical difficulties, but we are back.
You don't have to look at a laggy camera from me. I apologize for that.
Yeah, no problem. So we're talking about our trip. What else did we do? We went to the Museum of Natural History.
That we did do.
Lots of dinos.
Yeah, we did go straight for the dino floor.
I mean,
Can't help it.
We didn't know it was closing at 5:30, but
it worked out because of that.
We had a time constraint to get to the UFC event, so we were like, we have to see the dinos at least. We play a lot of Ark, so we did
just a little bit.
We played a lot of Ark in college. It was nuts, but we won't talk video games. So after that, then we went to the UFC event. We saw Suga get submitted by Marab. A little unfortunate.
A little disappointing, but oh well.
But it was interesting experience. Definitely fun for me. But I think I said this to Jordan that if I were to go again, I would have to be on the main level because it's not really worth sitting that high up. You might as well just pay for the pay-per-view at home.
Yeah. Unfortunately, being that high up, I kind of just ended up looking at the big screen. So
I tried not to, but there were some exchanges where it's like hard to kind of see everything from way out there. And we had a drunk guy yelling behind us the whole time.
Oh yeah, we did.
We got there at 7:30. The main card starts at 10. This is just prelims. We got there at 7:30, and I felt like there were a ton of plastered people.
Yeah, no, we got there, and everyone around us was probably drunk as fuck.
So was that just Jersey itself, or was it mostly UFC, or think a good mix of both?
I don't know because it's like I don't know how many people there really were from Jersey. Because like I mean, how many people from New Jersey could even afford that? Living in such a dump.
Ooh,
But
some absolute shots fired. I told you guys, he's
I mean,
big
listen,
guns.
from New York, I can't help it. It's in my blood to hate on New Jersey.
Is that the attitude
Although I will
and
say I did live in New Jersey for like the first 2 years of my life, so
oh, a
I can
little
only say so much.
hypocritical right there, but
Yeah, a little hypocritical, but that's okay. I
we'll
was
allow
born
it.
in New York though. I was born in New York, so
We'll allow it. We'll allow it. So, Jordan, I'm gonna be honest,
yes.
man. Had a long day today, right? We had a carry-in at work. There's a ton of food. I had about 3 or 4 plates myself. Was eating all day, it felt like. And I skipped the gym because I wanted to make sure Graham didn't have diarrhea all over his crate today. So yesterday he had diarrhea, and I came home and I had to clean him up for pretty much half the night. Later
That's
on,
awful.
he pooped on my floor, on the carpet, as well. So I was not very happy with him, and I wanted to make sure I didn't have any messes to clean up before our podcast. Luckily, he's better now. So, all that to say, I'm a little tired, man. I'm gonna be honest, the brain's not firing like it should be today. And I want you to kind of take the floor a little bit, if you can do that for me.
I can
And
do that.
so go ahead and talk about your company, kind of what their like mission, their objective is. And not your
All right.
company, you work at it, but it's still a startup, so you have a big
Yeah.
role in it yourself. So go ahead and kind of
Yeah,
tell
I
the
can talk
people
about
what's
it.
going on.
Yeah, so I interned there, let's see, not last summer, 2 summers ago I interned there. And at that point they were literally working out of someone's garage and they had like a house that they had gutted and that was their main workspace that they were working out of. And they were making a concrete 3D printer which prints houses. So every summer they would tend to, take whatever printer they had made from over the winter when you can't really print and print a house with it, see how it goes, and then come back and be like, all right, what else do we need to change? So I entered there that summer. I enjoyed it a lot, and I said, I want to come back and actually do something. So I came back a year later, and I got back right there in June. And of course, since it's the summer, they were in the middle of printing a house. And let me tell you, working on a construction site with no shade in 90-degree weather every day for like a month and a half really did me in. Like, it was exhausting. And I went, okay, I need to make this easier. I need to make this better. I need to do what I can to make sure the next machine doesn't break as much and we don't have as many dead days. I need to make sure that it has like more convenient features that, we can not have to worry about dealing with on site and that kind of stuff. So we came back in like September or October after we had finished printing the house, and we started designing a new machine. And that's basically what I was doing up until maybe a month and a half ago. And that machine came out amazing. We're really happy with it to the point where it's actually the first one we sold. Sold it to someone for $1 million. And that is currently in California right now, actually printing 5 houses. So that's pretty cool. Good timing too, because like earlier this year there was all the wildfires in California. I think that was earlier this year. It was
So
either earlier this year or last year.
is the
Um,
intention to like have it printing because of the fires in terms of like building other people's houses back up, or what is their objective?
yeah, so right now we're trying to, help with that kind of stuff too, but also concrete houses are a little more fireproof than your average wooden one. So, it's good from that standpoint too, because those houses will last longer. Hopefully more earthquake and shock proof in that regard too, because it takes a lot more when you have a full concrete foundation and whatnot, and the whole house is built with that to tear down that kind of house. So hopefully those houses will have a little more longevity, and the people living there can feel a little more comfortable that all their stuff will be safe and that can be a home that they can keep. But that printer is out there in California right now. And, that was a lot of work, a lot of late days to get that out there. But a little bit of the story actually of that, when I got there and I had come back, I was mainly doing CAD and design work. And I do a lot of CAD and design work, right? Like I've been doing CAD for at least 10 years, it's very, very ingrained in me. I know how to do it. I can do it pretty quick. But I really, really enjoy a lot of the non-computer work. Like I like being downstairs on the shop floor. I like making stuff. I really enjoy that quite a lot. And so I actually got the chance, because of the circumstances, to be the machinist that got to work using their CNC mills and lathes and the router and everything, and really help out with a lot of that stuff. And so I basically taught myself how to use a CNC mill, how to use a CNC lathe and all that stuff. Basically 100% self-taught. Like I have the theory because I've done regular manual milling, manual lathing, drill press stuff, bandsaw stuff, chop saw stuff. Like I've done all that before, but I've never used, a fancy, 100K machine to make parts. So I started learning that. A few months went by, and now I'd say I am pretty damn good at it. And a lot of that machine is a lot of parts that I made in the process of figuring that out.
Was
So.
learning that more of like a trial and error kind of thing, or is it somebody teaching you? Do you take courses?
So it was a lot of trial and error. I had someone at the very start that was teaching me, but unfortunately, life circumstances got in the way and they couldn't stay there anymore. It wasn't like a firing thing. It was just like he had other life issues that he had to go deal with, and he just couldn't support working at a startup anymore. But he had been teaching me basic stuff because I had been asking. So he literally taught me how to turn on the machine, do very, very basic stuff, like all the basic conceptual things, but I had never personally done them myself. I hadn't clicked all those buttons on the machine. I hadn't moved it around. I hadn't made parts. I was just kind of following along like the basic things when he would do them. So from there on, it was basically me saying, all right, well, I have to figure this out now because no one else can. Everyone else has their own tasks, and I feel like I have the best shot at this. So I started watching videos on YouTube and messing around with the machine and basically saying, please don't crash, please don't crash, please don't crash every time I would run a part, because I very quickly learned that being a machinist, at least a CNC machinist, is a lot of praying that your program actually works the first time you run it, because if it doesn't, and something crashes, that's a very expensive loss of time and money to fix it. So I thankfully never had that happen. I have not broken any of the machines. I've broken a few end mills, I've broken a few drills, but that's kind of inevitable. You do that. But so I ended up learning how to do CNC milling and CNC lathing, basically on my own with just YouTube videos and just a vague understanding of how the machining process works. And right now we're actually gearing up to make 2 more machines, just like the one we just made, with some minor revisions. Some like, we didn't get enough time to do this or that before we sent out the printer, so let's add on the nice quality of life things that we wanted to add. So I'm currently setting up all my programs for that. I was running some parts on the CNC lathe today, and actually, speaking of a good topic, which I had a question for you on as well, is I was teaching the 2 interns that were there today. The third guy is actually off at his high school graduation today because he is interning before his freshman year of college, which is a really crazy thought. That's very early to be interning at a company. Mm-hmm. But the other 2 are sophomores in mechanical engineering. And I was teaching both of them how to use the CNC mills today. So it feels good to be able to pass on that knowledge to someone else now that I'm confident enough to do it myself. But actually that leads me to a good question I have for you is, how is it going with your intern? I know you still have one that you're helping out as well.
Yeah, I am helping out my first intern. I don't know, I was talking to my grandparents, and as I was telling them that I'm helping like interns right now and doing all this and that, they're like, oh, so you're like kind of getting the managerial kind of skill sets as well. I'm like, well, I never really viewed it as obtaining managerial experience, but in a way, it's not far from it because you're still like assigning somebody tasks to do and overseeing them and teaching them. So, in a way, I think I'd like to phrase it more as a managerial experience. Um, you're kind of
I mean, I can agree with that.
leading this person in a path that you think is beneficial to them and possibly a little bit yourself because you're getting a little bit off your plate. Um, but I enjoy it. It's like training them how I would have trained myself, knowing what I know now. Um, that's a big takeaway for me. It also reinforces a lot of the concepts that I might have struggled with or had some questions about myself because I'm still asking questions every day in my job. Um, and it whenever they ask me questions, if I don't know the answer, I try to dig in and try to figure out that answer for them. So, my intern's doing well. She wasn't here this week. She had some kind of counseling thing she had to do, like a camp counseling. But she'll be back next week. Yeah, it's going great.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. My boss literally, she was like, "Yeah, honestly, it's always such a pain having to deal with the interns because I have so much work myself. And you were an intern before, so why don't you manage the interns?" And I was like, "Okay. I mean, I guess that's close enough to an okay reason." So I got stuck with all three of them, and I'm very grateful for it because it means that I can definitely alleviate a lot of the machining workload that I have because I can have them actually do stuff on the mill and the chop saw and stuff while I'm working on the lathe or vice versa. So I actually have the manpower to be able to do more than one thing at a time, which is a very nice thing to have since, that's the one thing you tend to lack in a startup is actual manpower to do stuff. As it is a lot of just, figure it out yourself or, well, it's not happening. So I'm very glad to have some more people so that I can distribute that load a bit too and get some of the things that I've always wanted to be able to do or wanted to be able to add that I just was like, I don't have time. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So being able to do those things now is a very, very nice change. But yeah, so hopefully 2 more machines coming by the end of this year. We'll get those out and printing houses sometime, over winter to early next year, depending on weather permitting and where they go. And we're also going to do some other prints as well with them, some other fun stuff for some contracting work to some people, because I think we're going to keep one of those printers for ourselves and use it as like a demo printer and like a personal, contract project printer for the business. Because it's good to just have one to be able to test with, because obviously all of our testing right now is across the country on the other side and only available via phone call or plane flight. So, it helps to have right there in front of you, because basically all we did before we sent it out was say, all right, we're going to run it for like 4 days straight. I'm not going to touch it. Leave it out in the field, let it run. If anything happens and anything breaks, then we'll fix it. And I was like, I designed most of this and I made most of these parts, but it's like, I only done so much because this is my first real year of like actual work experience. I only have the theoretical behind it. So it's like, I'm like ready for things to break. I'm ready for this or that to be going wrong and be like, Jordan, you got to fix this. And so far, nothing's broke. And every time I'm like, oh, something happened on the job site. Something must have broke. No, it was just a very minor thing. Like they did something else wrong. So I've definitely especially because of the machinist thing, I'm on that like hair trigger of like, I'm ready for something to go wrong,
Yeah.
but it never actually goes wrong, which kind of just ends up making me very jumpy sometimes.
I feel like you almost wish that things would go wrong, especially in the beginning. That way you know that you're prepared to handle those problems just with like, of course you don't want it to blow up in your face or anything, but like little minor things, it'd be nice if they went wrong so you know how to combat them.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it's nice to be able to know it's like, oh, okay, this doesn't work. But at the same time, I was making something that was a product that was going to get sold. So I would hope, that I can make something that won't break to begin with, or is very difficult to break. That takes a lot of someone using it wrong for, it to break in a significant way. So I'm also very proud on that point because I can say, obviously knock on wood because all 5 houses aren't done yet, but that I have made something that's robust enough to, be able to withstand that California heat and, all those working hours, which for a first work project.
Only makes perfect machines.
Okay, hold on. Let's not
Time, flawless,
let's not get ahead of ourselves.
To be seen. And if
don't get me wrong. I made
it's
plenty of
It's
mistakes.
not Jordan's fault.
Yeah, well, okay. No, I would take responsibility for it if it broke and it was on me. But no, during the process of making the machine, I did plenty of things wrong. I made parts that didn't work. I made things that didn't fit. I definitely had my fair share of like, I just won't work. I don't know why I didn't realize that beforehand. But fortunately, when you're the guy that designs it, the guy that makes it, and the guy that tests it, you can kind of go back and be like, all right, well, I just got to change like 1 or 2 minor things. It's not a big deal. And get those changes in quickly. Which obviously when you got a telephone line that down between 4 or 5 people, it gets a lot more difficult. You got to go to the programmer. The programmer's then got to go to the CAD designer. The CAD designer's got to go, and be like, okay, now I got to fix this, this, and this. Send it back to the programmer. The programmer has to remake the part and then send the program to the machinist, and then the machinist has to make it, and then the person's got to test it again. So being able to save all those steps and just be the guy that does it all definitely teaches you quite a lot about the whole process, which I'm very grateful to have. So
yeah, it's almost nice to get your hands in a little bit of everything, because I find that on the production line myself, like being a design engineer, I'm cramped up inside, but right now we're working on a proto. Without really giving away what company I work for, our proto is something that they're building from the very base upwards. It's not something we've built before. We started from the ground up. It's out there right now. All the team leaders are kind of putting things together, and I've been out there a lot, just kind of observing, seeing what problems come up. So that way I know, like, whenever I'm doing my job and making guidelines for the production, I know what to look for, how they're installing these things, so I know how to make it seamless for them. So it's the whole process. It's a process, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You gotta build from the ground up. It's nice to get your hands in on everything, to kind of see where this is moving in a company.
Yeah, I totally get that. Definitely the marathon, not a sprint thing. Because let me tell you, if I had taken any more late nights and I had done any more work, I probably would have gone crazy. I definitely paced myself pretty well. And that sleep is important too, because when you're tired and you're frustrated and you're like still putting in all those extra hours like that, it can totally mess you up, and it can make you do a lot more things wrong than right, and then you have more stuff to fix later. So it definitely can affect your mental. But I'm very glad that I know how to pace myself like that, because it worked out very well. And I was very reasonable with the hours that I took, and I only really had to do a little bit of crunch time at the end for all those extra hours. But I still put in more than you would at a normal like 9 to 5. So, but that's to be expected. That's what you get when you work at a startup. You get as much out of a startup as you put in, because your work directly correlates to the product that you're selling. It's not like a bigger business where if one product doesn't sell, you kind of still have other things that you can fall back on, or if your margins are off a little bit, it's like whatever, you're still selling products, you still have stuff. Whereas for us, it's like if our printer doesn't sell, then that's it. It's over. That's all your work on.
There.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to clarify for everyone, the idea of who you work for is to make the printers, not to build the houses and structures with the printers solely, but obviously making sure it can do that. But your selling point is you want to sell these printers.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, those first few printers we have to test ourselves, and we have quite a few houses where I am in New York that are currently have people living in them. One of them, actually, the one from last summer, was a Habitat for Humanity house, and has a family currently living in it. So that was a really cool one to be able to know that I've made a house that someone lives in. Um, but it definitely is, it's a lot of work printing a house when you are on the, cutting edge of that and you're still trying to figure everything out, compared to when the process is fully solidified and, everything is known and you just kind of got to run through the basic steps and you're good. So we definitely had to do a lot of testing, and we would like to, now that we've sold one printer, go more into production and being able to sell those printers instead of being busy all the time printing those houses, because we can send those out like you can with a CNC machine or a CNC lathe or mill, and let someone learn how to operate that, and then they can handle that and kind of be like all of those CNC machining companies, which would be really cool to see.
So, to kind of get in more detail of your role, you describe using the CNC machining to you're making the actual components that go into the printer itself. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
That is what I'm doing. So I am designing those parts in CAD. I am making the program that runs on the CNC machine, and then I'm running that program on the CNC machine, and then I'm putting that part on the machine. So I kind of go through the whole design process. I don't really just get that like, oh, I'm the CAD design guy, or oh, I'm the machinist. I'm like all those kind of things put together, because when you have so few people.
Sink.
Yeah, I am the whole kitchen sink. Because when you only have so many people, and you only have so many people that do different things. Like there's only like 10 of us or so. So obviously you got to have people that are out there, getting customers to be able to buy the printer. You have to have people out there that are getting trained to use the printer so that they can go out and, help assist with those first few prints. And train other people while they're at it so that they don't have to, just be stuck in that one place. You have people that are doing the G-code work, making the programs that will run on the printer, because making those is a lot more work than just making a part, because there's no established like 3D printer software that you can just put your house in and boom, magically you get out all of the things that the printer is supposed to do for that house.
Like we did at Purdue, you just make a little model in there, and then you dump it in, and then boop, boop, boop.
And then boom, out comes the part. Unfortunately, 14 hours later. It's not that easy. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not that easy. You gotta, really put some work in, because you gotta follow the architectural plans. You gotta lay out the plumbing. You gotta lay out the electrical. It's not just the printer doing all of that.
Codes, I'm sure.
Yeah, you gotta follow the building and our architectural codes. We had to learn a bunch of new stuff because we don't know what the rules are in California, because they're a little bit different than New York, because obviously between all the fires and the earthquakes and stuff, you have different regulations and rules on like where does the rebar need to be placed as you run through the house, how many layers between each group of rebar, like the vertical rebar that's in there needs to be in different spots, you need different columns. There's a lot of specifics that you need to follow, and reading the architectural plans and all that kind of stuff was definitely very interesting. It's not the main thing that I do, because some other people work on it there, or with us, and then we also contract out for the actual architectural plans themselves, because we don't have an architect in our company directly. But then, so you got the guy doing all the electrical, you got the media guy, recording, making the tutorial videos, showing how to do everything. You got my boss, who basically does all of that and more, because, she has to, because she's got to know what everyone's doing all the time. You got me and another guy that do all the engineering and design work. So it's a pretty mixed bag. We all have a lot of stuff on our plate, and we have a lot of roles to fill, more than just, doing one or two things, but it works out. And I mean, we all trust each other, and we all rely on each other, because if any one of us didn't know what we were doing, it would all fall apart. But that's what you get with the startup. You get a close-knit group, which is very enjoyable. Trust me, I love coming into work, and I love knowing that, I'm gonna chat with the same food people, and I know like I can, trust them and do whatever. There's no like, oh, we got 5 new people coming in today, or oh, this guy is going somewhere else, or all this kind of stuff. It's a much more close-knit group, and I enjoy that. We'll literally, like, during lunchtime, one person will be like, I'm kind of hungry. And they'll go over to someone else and be like, what do you think about lunch? And then it'll just rally its way all the way around through all of us until everyone's somehow been dragged over to the lunch table so that we can all eat lunch together for things like that.
All 10 of you.
All 10 of us. Yeah, I mean, that's usually what we do.
There's a lot less than I actually thought worked there, so that kind of was impressive to me. You were able to accomplish all that with that many people.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what you get when you put in a lot of hours and can kind of trust everyone, and they all have their roles and know what they're doing. It's obviously not easy, and it takes a lot of time to really, get together a group like that. And we've had our fair share of people come in and out that most certainly, did not fit that mentality, or didn't want to put in those extra hours, or this, that, or the next thing. And that's totally understandable, right? Like,
they sound like they're from Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, they might be, but yeah, it's totally understandable. Being in a startup isn't for everyone. Some people just want to do their work and they want to get out and get their money for the day, and that's it. And I don't blame them. It's not for everyone. I could never be a doctor. I could never be in the medical field. I could never do anything crazy like that. And so, having perspectives like that, everyone's got their thing. Everyone has what they want to do, and I can't judge for that. But I love being on the robotic side of thing. I love making things. It's such a joy working there. I really enjoy it. I'm hoping that we continue to be successful so I can keep that going, and obviously make a little bit of cash myself, but we'll see how it goes. So
gotta get the bag.
Yeah, always gotta chase the bag.
Chase your dreams, but sometimes dreams are hard to follow if you don't have the bag, guys. Like, you just gotta be honest. How big are your dreams?
Yeah, I mean, how much money do your dreams really cost?
So the intention of the company moving forward, like, what's the foreseeable future? Is there an end goal, or are you kind of just taking it day by day? Is there future projects you guys are working towards? So we actually want to see the company at.
Yeah, so we do have quite a few projects. We're not necessarily going to be printing any more houses ourselves because we're kind of past the point where we need to be able to sell those houses to recoup the money of the printer itself. And now that we have one that's been sold, obviously our goal is to be able to sell more of them, make more, sell more. So a lot of the current projects have been making all of our drawings updated, being able to send out all our parts, standardizing everything in a program that we have that tells us exactly what we need to order, how much we have in stock, what we need to be able to get to be able to build a machine, and then put it all together. Because ideally, by the end of it, we want to just be assembling and selling. That's really all we want to be able be doing, and then a little bit of R&D, obviously, because it's always good to be improving things. But that's kind of the vision. We also want to have a subcomponent of the company that's for, distributed smaller projects, right? Because not everyone wants to just buy a printer so they can make and do one project, If a museum wants to be able to print part of their museum and have like fancy flat walls and that kind of stuff, we can do that. Our walls can be like, we've been calling it holobread, where we actually have the nozzle go back and forth and oscillate between layers, and it creates this really cool texture on the wall. And so we have a lot of things like that we're testing that are non-standard prints. We print the islands and the kitchen areas and that kind of stuff too. So printing stuff that isn't just the base and the walls, where we can, which I think is really cool. But obviously for most people, it's like, I wouldn't buy a printer to print one house. It doesn't make sense. So having a printer or two and having a little subcontracting team in the company to be able to go to those people and say, hey, we already have the printer made. We'll come to you guys. We'll set it up. We'll print. this is what the contract would be. You guys will get exactly what you want, and we'll do it perfectly because it's our printer. We know exactly how to do it. No one else has to get trained. It's just a project that we're doing from us, and you'll get what you want. We'll obviously make some money off of it, and that would be able to distribute a lot more of our projects, a lot more broadly throughout a lot more places, because it's not just, oh, this guy's gonna print 20 homes in California with one printer. It's more like, oh, this museum actually had parts of this printer, or, oh, this zoo has some enclosures that were printed by this printer, or, oh, the aquarium that's over there has a printed exhibit, or this convenience store was made with a 3D printer and that kind of stuff. But being able to do those projects definitely is a cool part of it too, because then you could see your work in more places, which I think is pretty satisfying.
A little more impactful, yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the countertop thing. In my head, you were just printing walls. So like, I'm sure you print with like drain lines and whatnot in mind. Like, are you printing around that so it has the drain lines in there, or are you just leaving space for those to be placed, or how do you do that?
So I can kind of go through the process of what we do for printing a house. So when we get to a job site, right, we level out all the ground, we clean up the site, we make it all nice and easy to print on, stuff you'd have to do anyways, no matter what kind of house you're making. And then we lay out the printer, we set it all up, and then we actually have a attachment for the printer that replaces where the nozzle is, that has a spray can on it, and will mark out the entire house and tell you, like, basically the electrical goes here, the plumbing goes here, and then the electricians and the plumbers come in and they lay out all of their electrical and plumbing right there on those marks where the house is going to be printed. And then after they lay out all of that stuff and it's sticking up out of the ground, we do some form work. We get the stuff ready to print the base of the slab. Sometimes you have to do some subterranean work and you fill that in with concrete. It depends on the state, depends on the rules. And then we print that slab, that base of the house, so your floor and your connection to the ground, and we'll print that. And in that, we'll print with the plumbing and the electrical, so that will come up through that slab and then into the walls of the house. And then once that slab is printed, then we'll print the rest of the stuff that we have on the house, which obviously is mainly the walls, but also things like kitchen islands and, countertops and that kind of stuff. We can print the bases of those features as well. We can't necessarily do large overhangs without some extra, setup work. It's possible, but you have to kind of set things up a specific way to be able to support underneath the concrete and build those foundation pieces, because you can't just obviously have overhang, you would just drop.
Like a regular plastic spool 3D printer, like it can't, if it doesn't have support underneath it, it's kind of hard to just print midair, it's just,
unfortunately gravity does still exist and you can't really ignore that fact. So yeah. But so we do all of that. We'd love to be able to do more eventually too. If we can do basements, if we could do roofs, that kind of stuff. Oh, there's Mr. Gramberson. I had my dog earlier. He's gone off to the corner, so I guess it's your turn. But yeah, so we'll do, that kind of stuff too eventually, I would hope. But right now we have that, the paint sprayer thing, and then we also actually do the insulation foam in the walls. So after the walls are printed, we bring the printer up on top, and instead of concrete coming through the line, we run insulation foam through the line, and then we fill it all with insulation foam.
Same line, or there's a separate line that you activate?
Same line.
Same line?
Yeah, same line. Yeah,
you
so...
clear it out or anything?
Yeah, so we clear the line at the end of the day. And then we also... it's a mix, right? So not just the, not just the concrete, but it needs a catalyst, it needs water and air, I believe, and that all comes to a mixing piece in there. So we have lines hooked up for all of that as well.
I remember you telling me while we were in college about how you were interning there and you were literally shoveling gravel in this thing or something.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I can get to that in a second. But yeah, so we do the insulation foam as well, which is really cool because that's one of those things where you'd have to have someone else come in and get a whole setup and do all this stuff. But we literally just have a pallet that comes with the printer. You just put all your mixed stuff in there, send it through the printer, fills in the walls, and then you print the rest of the house like that top bond beam that holds the whole house together. And then roof people come in, slap a roof on it. Interior designer people come in, make the house look all pretty, and then someone can live in it. So, it's a pretty involved process still. It's not like we're taking everyone's jobs and no one else has any work that they can do anymore. Yeah, I know. No, there's still quite a good amount of contracting work and other people that have to come in and, contribute to a house. So, unfortunately, a printer which does all the electrical, all the plumbing, makes a roof and all that kind of stuff as well is a very far way off. That stuff. Unfortunately, we're not going to be printing the glass in the windows and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, maybe one day seems a little non-feasible in my head, but
I don't really see it myself. But one step at a time.
people didn't
You got to
see
work there.
computers till they got here either, so you never know.
That's true. You never know. But yeah, and then anyways, back to what you were saying before about the shovel and gravel thing and whatever. When we were printing, then that was actually back when we were still working out of like a gutted house in a garage. And so we didn't have a good way to like shovel sand and Portland into the mixer that we had to pour concrete out. So it was literally me and the other intern with a shovel on like a bobcat, which would shovel up the sand, lift it up to the top of the mixer, and then it couldn't reach over to pour the sand in. So me and the other guy were standing on top, shoveling it out of the bobcat bucket and into the mixer for like 2 or 3 days straight because it takes a lot of concrete to print a slab. And two guys shoveling all that in kind of is a constant task when you're taking all that right back out on the other end. So,
Ladies and gentlemen,
fortunately,
that's how the pyramids were made.
that is how the pyramids were made.
Just standing there
but-
doing the little parts.
Yeah, but no. So fortunately, obviously, we have a lot better of a setup now. No one has to do that. We just have, machinery that can scoop up that stuff, put it in, and we have a silo that pours all the Portland straight into the mixer. And obviously, we have a water line for the water too. So fortunately, no manual labor, no shoveling. You can just focus on letting the machine move and do its thing, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, I would say that's most of what I would have work-wise. I mean, there's not much else. Obviously, I could tell, other story things about, things that we've had happen. But I think overall, gist-wise, I think that covers most of it. I'm not sure if I can really cover much else without going into crazy detail.
Yeah, no problem. But I think you provided a very in-depth detail of your job and the company, and if you want to provide any information or link to a website for the company after, I can always throw that in the description, whatever you want to
Yeah,
provide.
I can give you something. We got a website,
Just
so,
people
I can always throw
check
that in there.
out the kinds of projects going on and whatnot. So
Yeah. Yeah, I can give you something.
well, that's cool. We can talk a little bit about college, I suppose. We got about
I
10
figured that would
minutes
make
left.
sense. I mean, I've been talking about myself this whole time, but no one knows how the hell I even know you, It's like you made one comment on it at the start, but
Yeah, I mentioned you're my freshman year roommate.
yeah.
We didn't really room after that. That was just a random dorm assignment.
Random chance. Yeah.
Kind of insane. I thought, wow, this guy's pretty nuts. He's from New York. He just, I don't, no.
I don't know.
Chill guy.
I mean, to be fair, it's not like I did much freshman year,
I
especially with
remember
COVID.
The first day, I don't know. I did not want to socialize. I was kind of stressed out, and dude, I was playing like Fall Guys, and like people were just walking in our room, watching Fall Guys, and then leaving.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny.
Yeah, no, there were definitely a lot of days where it was just like just us both chilling on our beds, playing on the our TVs and whatever. But
Yeah.
that was fun. Honestly, I enjoyed that year a lot, especially because it was just everyone was so close together, despite really not supposed to be because of COVID.
Yeah, but
Um,
now we know we were never in the wrong because social distancing was a ruse.
it was all a ruse. Didn't matter at the end of the day.
They just
But
didn't want
either
people
way,
to
I
get
mean,
along with each other. That's all it was.
yeah, exactly. Either way, I mean, freshman year was fun, and then I feel like sophomore year was kind of like we didn't hang out a crazy amount. I think we kind of went our separate ways for a bit,
Took a break.
and took a break. Couldn't stand each other anymore.
Took a
Living
break
with
from each
this guy
other.
for a year, I couldn't stand to see him. I had seen him too much. But
Feel the
no,
same.
and then junior year, I feel like I kind of came back around. Especially because you were kind of settled in to your place
Hmm.
that you were kind of at for the rest of college, and I would come hang out there a lot more.
Well, I think
And
the
then,
problem sophomore year was my roommates at the time. They
yeah, well, that probably contributed a little bit to
they
it.
were a bit estranged from society. It was definitely a different set. I'm not gonna, go into detail, but
It
it
was
was.
interesting walking into a jungle, at least whenever I entered your apartment.
Yeah, this guy had. I walk in first day with my parents, may I add. This guy had already been living there for probably a couple weeks. He had clearly moved in and decided the whole four-person apartment was his. Because he had literally everything in the living room set up. There were like, I think we counted 9 atriums slash tanks. Uh, there
It was
were
a lot.
there were
There were a lot.
bugs in several of them. Some of them was just greenery with like algae and like gross crap growing all over it. Algae's not gross, but like they were not maintained atriums. A
Yeah, they were
couple
quite
fish
dirty.
tanks, and I think did he have lizards in one of them?
I think there was. I feel like I vaguely remember there being a lizard one.
And he had some more in his room. It was just not a pleasant experience at all. It smelled, it felt like a freaking sauna. He wouldn't turn the thermostat below like 73. And every time one of us would turn it, he would turn it back up. It was not a pleasant experience, so I think that was partially the reason me and Jordan didn't hang out because I did not like bringing people over into that environment. It was disgusting.
It definitely was quite a sight every time I was there. But yeah, and then junior year, obviously you got more favorable roommates. Although I'm sure there are plenty of stories there about things that happened that I won't make you get into. But then we started hanging out more. That's when we started playing Ark. I think towards the later half of that year, and
Big arc
watching more UFC
references.
stuff.
Hmm.
And then senior year, obviously, it was at that point, we had hung out enough. They were like, all right, well, I mean, if I'm gonna have to, I might as well. But yeah, so we'd hang out more like that year. We go to the bars, do whatever.
The
A lot
bros,
of good times.
college bros.
College bros.
But we were both in mechanical engineering, so we would occasionally see each other. Did we? We had a class or two together. We didn't really have
We
that
did.
many, but
I feel like a lot of times it was
well,
just more us studying for exams and
we
doing
obviously
homework.
had senior design together, so that was
Yeah, we
we
did.
kind of pulled to make
Unfortunately,
that
that was
happen
our
though.
choice.
We pulled to
Yeah,
make that happen.
yeah, we did. We did have to do a good amount of work to,
Dude, we
wrangle that
assembled
all
the
together.
Avengers in that class.
Yeah, we really did. I honestly like you and me like trying to figure out scheduling wise how to end up in the same class and then somehow stumbling into like that group was pretty crazy because that was definitely not what the expected outcome was when we were looking at it at first. I think I literally changed classes like what was it during the first week because
Yeah.
someone else changed classes and a one spot opened up and I was like, oh, I can get in. And then like I forget exactly what
Weaseled his
happened
way
after
in.
that, but yeah, but I squeezed my way in somehow. So
Like, yeah, you pulled up in like our second senior design meeting or something.
yeah,
That was
but
funny.
it worked out well. I mean, I enjoyed senior design. That was a lot of fun. And all the guys in that group were great. I had a lot of good times with that in general.
Do you
And
still
obviously,
have our project?
It's somewhere in my house. I definitely still have it. I didn't throw it away, but
It was our.
you know,
I guess if you want to explain it a little bit, because this was kind of our
yeah.
idea.
So, my grandpa has his hand like and arm shakes a lot, right, when he eats. And it's difficult for him to be able to eat stuff or write or do whatever. I'm blanking right now on what it's called. There's
Essential
a name for it.
tremors.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. And so we wanted to make something to kind of dampen that and, not something crazy that you have to like wear on your arm or like that does like electroshock therapy or all this crazy stuff. Also because obviously we're very limited
Yeah,
medical field wise. We're not part of that.
all those
But
options were like super like biomedical and just way out of our like field of
our skill
knowledge.
range.
And
Yeah.
we would have had to put in a ton of study work to even catch ourselves up to that point. But also those options were very expensive and we wanted a,
Do something
an
cheap.
affordable option that also worked.
So we came up with this little thing that you just basically slip your pencil, you slip your fork or whatever into, and it has a few springs in it, and it just kind of dampens the movement of your hand shaking. So even if your hand is shaking a little bit, the fork itself won't actually shake, or the pencil itself won't actually shake. It'll just shake the device instead, and your overall like arm movements will be preserved. So it worked a lot better than honestly I originally expected it to. I was surprised that the data actually showed like favorable results. And it was very interesting to see a lot of like, adults or older people actually be very interested in it because it's a very true to life thing. Like people out there have this and they know people that have this. So I had a lot of fun conversations with people towards the end when we were presenting versus like, the mechanical engineering students and whoever that had no relevance to this. But I had a lot of nice conversations with adults about it, so I thought it worked out quite well at the end, even if obviously we didn't pursue it or anything. But
Yeah,
not that you do
if
with
we
most
wanted to,
projects.
we could have just like softly pursued it afterwards, which I mean, we get like some kind of company to back it. Maybe they'd, you know, a
Yeah,
little prototype for us or something. But I don't know. That seems like
something a little more robust and clean
yeah,
looking
it's
than whatever
just
3D printed hodgepodge we had.
yeah. But it was still
But
something cool that we did, so I felt good about it.
yeah, yeah. And then the other class I remember us having together was fluids lab, which that worked out pretty well. I did so awful in the fluids lecture, and then somehow, some way, I think we got like an A in the
I-
fluids lab or
I'd be
something.
impressed if anyone did well in the fluids lecture.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I had no idea what was happening during fluids. It didn't help. I felt like none of the professors knew what was happening either, but
Yeah.
I think that was more of a communication issue than it was an understanding issue, which
Well, it's
sometimes
just
can't be
like
helped.
I don't know. It's the theoretical's tough in general. Like if the math's not tough to you, the concept's tough. But if the
Yeah.
concept's tough to you, sometimes the math's tough. It's just there's no middle ground.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how it goes though. But fortunately, I don't have to do fluids in my day-to-day life, so
Just
I'm very
glad we
grateful
got
for
our
that.
degrees and are
Yeah,
done with that.
somehow got our degrees. Somehow both passed our FE exams. Skated by all the way
Just to
through
be
somehow,
honest,
some
like
way.
okay, what have you pulled from I guess your ME career and at Purdue, like what have you experienced in your job that kind of correlates to what you did in college?
A lot of the manufacturing and welding and that kind of stuff was very helpful. I took a welding class senior year. That was very informative. I actually got some good info out of that. I don't weld myself, but one of my coworkers does a lot of the welding, and it really helped him out, especially because I kept all the slides and whatever. So that was very beneficial. I would like to say the CNC machining class I took was beneficial, but I used the CNC once in that class and spent the rest of the time CADing, and not even programming. I literally never wrote a program in that class, which is ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
I was very upset with that class, and I have a whole other like story of issue with that class with the final project, even though it was sitting on my desk, but they didn't grade it despite me submitting it. So I got it graded and I got my grade fixed, but to make a long story short, but that class I wish I could say was beneficial. It wasn't. I will say a lot of the main lecture classes, while I don't use the curriculum itself, definitely help with my problem solving skills, being able to Google stuff, being able to find things online, being able to know the right places to look, double check with another place, all that kind of stuff. I learned a lot on that, even if I didn't actually apply any of the direct knowledge. And at the end of the day, I think that's more, what the academics and the schooling is for, is for you to be able to look at whatever problems you have and say, okay, what do I need to do to be able to solve this, even if the curriculum itself that I learned doesn't directly correlate to it. Because, you spend the whole time trying to figure shit out. And so when you get out and you get to the work world, it's the same thing. It's just people trying to figure shit out. So,
it's like the problems may not be as hard, but it's definitely helped mold us into capable beings so we can solve the problems we do encounter.
Yep. That's what I would say I got the most out of from my school time. I'm very grateful to be working, let me tell you that. Not having exams, not having homework, and just being able to see tangible progress of the things I'm doing is very enjoyable.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for it.
I do miss the lifestyle a little bit, though.
I was going to say I do miss the freedom, though, because, when you're working 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 or whatever every day, it definitely is exhausting. And obviously, with school, you can kind of bounce around. You're not working, 8+ hours every day. Yeah, you have a lot more free time during the day. Yeah, not going out to the bars as much, not going to as many parties, more of just a few social hangouts with friends and kind of stuff at most. But, it definitely feels nice to have my own, money to be able to do what I want with and be able to have the freedom to, make my own decisions and be able to not be limited to one place. So I'm very grateful for that. I've really enjoyed being able to work and, change up my lifestyle over the past year. But I definitely can't say that it's all, fun and games. It's definitely a lot of work. And I do miss that about school, being able to do a lot more, hang out with people that are in close proximity, and have that freedom to just kind of chill a little more in that lifestyle.
So yeah, enjoy it while you're in college.
Definitely do that.
While I do miss some aspects of it, kind of just savor, no matter how much you're disliking your coursework or having to study for exams or keep up with all this other crap, like, do kind of savor those moments of, like, greatness and fun that you have in college, because it's not forever. It's gonna stop once you become an adult.
Unfortunately.
You will not have those same moments, so savor them if you can.
They are definitely worth savoring. I do miss them. Not as many crazy house parties where I'm getting blackout drunk anymore, unfortunately. But, obviously it balances out. I've gone to karaoke a few times with friends. I've done other stuff, in local areas. So it's not like it's all gone. It's not like it's all bad, but it's definitely different, It's definitely not the same as it is when it's at school, especially considering obviously not everyone is the same age or within like a 4-year age range anymore. It's a lot more, all over the place. You get people that are 28, you get people that are 30, you get people that are 35, you get, a lot more people that are older than you after college and obviously have different energy levels, different life experiences, different things they want to achieve at that point in their lives. So being able to take those perspectives in is really cool. But obviously there are mismatches there. You don't see eye to eye on things. You have different things that you want to get out of life at that point in time. So I definitely think that contributes a lot to it. And, that's a part of why college is what it is, because it's right there in that in-between between being a teenager and being an adult, and, kind of have a lot of freedom for the first time, so you kind of want to use it. But then the responsibilities kick in.
Very well said, Jordan. Couldn't have said it better myself. So, We are nearing our end of our episode here today. As we have done in the previous episodes, one of the one of us usually gives a little bit of a motivational kick to the end of the episode for those that wish to hear it. I'm gonna give Jordan the floor on this one. Give him a little bit to think of something motivational. So I had to prompt Ethan with this a little bit. What's gonna get him out of bed in the morning when they hear that alarm and not snooze at five
All right.
times.
Yeah.
Something.
All right. I definitely would say, at least the things that motivate me the most are just being able to have those choices, being able to have those freedoms, being able to say, I know what I want to do with today. I won't let anyone else stop that. I won't let anyone else get in the way. Other people will tell you things. Other people will want things from you. Other people will have things that they want that you don't want, and those kind of things. And that's fine. And if you obviously are a people pleaser or you like being with other people that you do those things with, that's okay. But sometimes you really gotta be able to focus on yourself, be able to really say, this is what I want today. This is what I need. This is what is important to me. And I'm not going to let someone else get in the way of that. I'm not going to let someone, yeah, exactly. I'm not going to let someone else stop me from doing those things. Being able to do those things for yourself is important. And, if it helps you at all to be able to have someone say, do something for yourself today, then that's what I would say. Definitely do something for yourself. Do something that you would be happy doing. Don't let someone else tell you what makes you happy. Decide that for yourself. And yeah, that's what that's what's important to me. That's what I believe. And I would say it is definitely a very helpful mentality in my life. So, if it helps you at all, that's a good piece of advice from me to you.
Very beautiful, Jordan. You heard it here, folks. New York man has spoken. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. This would be Monday. Tune in Thursday for another one. Jordan, I hope I can have you on again at some point. This was fun.
Love to come back. I mean, obviously, we still got plenty more we can talk about. You kind of got me on the work spree today, but I'm a lot more than a working man, so.
Nope, that's all you are to these guys. Alright,
Ah,
Cat
damn.
signing out. See you later.